and welcome to episode 6 of the Ascension Dev Diary. Today I'm going to be going over the explosion system that I've implemented, the reasoning behind it, and a couple examples of it being used. The system itself is based off particle effects that are built into the Ogre 3D system that I'm using. So why do I want to use particle effects? Basically, all of my art right now is models only. They aren't animated in any way. Without any kind of animation for explosions, I have to figure out other ways of creating these effects. The easiest way and the best way that I've found so far is to use particle effects. By layering these effects, which use pretty simple textures and decals, I can create a pretty convincing explosion. Not necessarily AAA quality, but something that definitely will work for the kind of audience that I'm looking for in my game. The particle effects themselves can actually be created in a number of different editors that are available for Ogre. I may actually code my own editor and integrate it into the mod editor if at some point that becomes feasible and useful. So far the editors that I've seen have been pretty good, but they aren't all perfect. And obviously I want this to be somewhat easy if it's going to be a cornerstone of how the game renders explosions and effects inside. The way I'm actually using particle effects is to give them a position, a runtime, and a delay. By doing this, I can create some fairly advanced effects that both contain explosions and also sort of status effects as the ship is exploding. So here's a couple examples of the actual particle effects in the game. The first being the rocket explosion, and the second being a ship explosion. So I'm just going to break those down and show you what layers of particle effects I'm using, so you can recreate something like this in either your game or your mod. So here's the default ship explosion. It combines 3 effects to create this final effect. The first effect that it's going to do is it's going to have just a base flame explosion object. It's pretty simple. It has a sort of explosion look, but not quite the pop that I really want an explosion to have. So the second layer we put on there is a lens flare. So we'll give the explosion a bit more look of an immediate explosion rather than sort of a slow flame. The final thing that we're going to add is we're going to add some debris, some fragmentation from when the ship explodes. The idea behind this is that this is a ship made of material. That material should go somewhere when the ship explodes. Just a tiny little effect, but I think it adds a little bit more realism to the final explosion effect for the ship. The second effect I'll be going over is the rocket explosion. I've actually attached it to a laser for this example so that I can more easily show you the effect on screen. Again, it's 3 layers. The first being a flame effect. In this case it's a blue flame, which gives, again, sort of a slight explosion, but it's a little too slow, doesn't have quite enough pop for what you would expect an actual rocket explosion to have. So the second layer, again, is going to be a lens flare. Lens flares are useful everywhere for explosions. Again, it gives a bit more of immediate pop to the explosion, and again makes it a little more interesting to look at rather than just the blue expanding flame. The final layer we're going to add is the shockwave. In this case it's just a ring that I'm expanding outward. Again, this sort of makes it gives it a little more punch. This is a real explosion rather than just some little pop of blue flame, and it sort of adds that last final quality to make this a useful in-game effect that's going to be somewhat impressive to players when they first see it. So that'll be the end for this video. You'll see more explosions in the upcoming mod editor video, where I'm going to rig up one of the larger ships so that I'll be able to do explosions and some actual death status effects and make what hopefully will be a pretty impressive display of the power of the explosion system that I've got implemented. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.